Welcome to Well Beyond Medicine, the Nemours Children's Health podcast. Each week, we'll explore anything and everything related to the 80% of child health impacts that occur outside the doctor's office. I'm your host, Cheryl Vassar, and now that you're here, let's go.
Let's go, well beyond medicine.
Joining me now from PAS, the meeting of PAS, the Pediatric Academic Societies in Washington, D.C. We are on site with three Nemours colleagues, Drew Landmeier, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for Nemours. Che Parker is Communications Program Manager, and Cheryl Munn is Director of Enterprise Communications. And we are here to make a big announcement about the podcast, the very podcast that you are listening to right now. So, Drew, I'm going to turn to you, the big boss at the table here.
Yes.
What is the big announcement related to the podcast?
Well, first and foremost, hi, Carol. It's such a pleasure to meet you. It's the first time that we've met. But like you said, it's big news today. Today is the first day that we'll be launching Well Beyond Medicine podcast. And this will really increase our visibility nationally as an organization to reach a wider audience. The podcast will provide a true platform to showcase our organization's values, expertise, and true commitment to improving children's health and well-being. So with that, I'm excited to begin the conversation and to dig in and talk more about what we're going to be offering.
Well, before we get to that, I'm going to turn to Cheryl, and I want to hear a little of the history. We've done 191 episodes of what was called Champions for Children. It started about 3.5 years ago, but you're here to tell us a little more of that history. So Cheryl, go for it.
Well, this really was the brainchild of our Chief Human Relations Officer, Peter Adebi. He came to me back in 2019 and said, "Oh, we're doing a podcast." And I said, "What?" And his team and you, and I've been involved off and on, have produced, as you said, 191 really terrific episodes highlighting our associate stories. It started at the time to bring us together and to tell those stories, because a podcast is a great forum to be a little more intimate and to get into more details than some of our other platforms.
And it was also an opportunity to provide our associates with messaging during the pandemic. There was a whole period of time, I think from December of 2020 until March of 2021, when we were focused on messaging for the pandemic.
Yes,
right?
And that was a great way to bring us together because, we had a lot of people who had to leave the office, work from home, and everybody felt a little disconnected. So the podcast was a really good connector at the time, and it also provided a sense of belonging and also really important information because things were changing daily, weekly. If you look at the downloads from that period, that was really a lot of associate engagement during that time, too.
And if I could add, I've only been with the organization, Carol, for about 9 months now. Mm-hmm. So coming into an organization that has a very storied past and has a great reputation nationally, I was offered to listen to the podcast through my interview process. And it truly opened my eyes to where this organization was going, to understand the culture and the connectivity to parents and children, those who were caring for in the communities. So for me, it was definitely an opportunity to look behind the curtain in Nemours and really see what they were about. And when I joined the organization and I found out that, oh my God, it is the number 7 ranked podcast in the nation for children's healthcare information. And I thought, we have to harness this because it is the best kept secret.
It's also a great recruitment tool because it brought you to us.
Absolutely.
So we're grateful for that.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening. Drew, talk about some of the vision, the strategy. You say you've only been here 9 months, but I know you have a very good vision and strategy moving forward. Talk about the strategy behind the rebrand. Who are we trying to reach with this? Who would we like to get to hear our stories beyond the associate base, who are already our listeners?
Well, I hope I'm going to be able to unpack all that, Carol, but really, we're going to be focusing on communicating our expertise and how we can influence public policy and really promote best practices for children's health and well-being. That could be a variety of people, including healthcare, education, policy providers. We're going to invite people in with diverse perspectives. It's going to be individuals who may agree with us as an organization or may have a differing opinion, and that's okay, because ultimately we have to communicate. We have to connect with each other and understand the different struggles and perspectives that each of us can bring to bear and create positive solutions for the country and create the next generation of healthiest children.
And it's great to hear that we're going to bring in not just our point of view, but other points
Correct.
of view as
That's
well.
very important. I was very adamant that we were able to bring in those differing opinions and different voices because, we are a national provider. We are a multi-state, multi-site system. And, we have to represent various different communities. And our partners are far and wide, have different perspectives that can bring to the table as well.
And the podcast is not just the strategy you work on. It's
No.
part of a larger strategy. Where does this fit into the larger marketing and communication strategy?
No, it's a good ask. And ultimately, Well Beyond Medicine was where we landed with calling the podcast. Many individuals within the organization have called it our tagline, and I disagree. I think it's truly part of the DNA of the organization. My experience coming to the organization and only being with the organization now 9 months, I have found that people really have taken that to heart, and everybody defines it in a unique and different way. And I think that's the perfect name for the podcast because we all have different perspectives. We all have a different background and life experiences. And, how we provide support, especially in the clinical space, to children throughout the organization, throughout the country, is very important. So I think it's really bringing to life what Well Beyond Medicine means.
I'm going to throw out a question here. Why a podcast? What's in the audio space that is attractive to Nemours that we are going to such great lengths and great effort to produce a podcast? Cheryl, I'm going to turn to you.
I think the podcast gives us the opportunity to hear the voices in their own words of our associates and their stories. And when you have a little more time, like the podcast gives us, you can really hear the passion that our people bring to this work. We really have some of the most committed, amazing associates.
Drew.
I was just going to say, I think the podcast is really going to highlight areas that align with our strategic priorities, such as mental health, population health, and equity are very big topics in our nation right now. And how we can bring together both our associates, our clinicians, our thought leader experts, as well as our partners and alliances around the country. I think it's going to be a wonderful platform. It's a platform that's going to be unique and different and will further our national brand and reputation throughout the country.
Jay, I'm going to turn to you. We started talking about this possible rebrand, you and I, as far back as last summer. So what are people going to hear who are regular listeners that might be different or new to their ears?
There are some pressing issues that families are facing today. And some of those things we'll be talking about going forward are things like mental health, right? There's a crisis happening right now with youth mental health. Things like food insecurity and housing issues and transportation. These are things that happen outside of hospital walls. Again, that's really well beyond medicine that we'll be hoping to address. We'll be bringing in external experts in policy and research and innovation. We have the opportunity to not only convene these conversations, but to lead these conversations. So I know we're really excited about playing that role in these discussions.
And that's one of the reasons we're here in Washington right now, where the policymakers are, where the lawmakers are, where the leaders in pediatric health are. We're launching this podcast here for a reason. Talk about that.
Yes, we're in the nation's capital. This is where all the decisions are made. And so if we can have a platform and have a voice here, this is where we need to be.
Drew.
I'd also like to add that we're here in Washington, D.C. because we're attending the PAS conference, which is the Pediatric Academic Society Conference, which is held annually. It's a perfect opportunity to bring various different clinical thought leaders together to talk about the many different challenging issues that are facing parents and patients nationally. But I'd also like to highlight another significant reason is because we have our national office that is based here in Washington, D.C., and we are the only children's health system that has that representation in our nation's capital. So from being a national brand and having a national voice, this is the perfect location to kick off Well Beyond Medicine podcast.
And again, this is a great place to bring those leaders in to talk about what they need to talk about, want to talk about, and to open up those discussions with thought leaders, with clinicians, and with policymakers.
Absolutely.
So people are going to be hearing those episodes that we record here over the next several days, over the next several months. So there's a lot to look forward to there. Che, I want to talk about the interactive component. This is a really exciting, as a broadcaster, as a podcaster, this is an exciting component of the new podcast to me. Can you talk about what we're adding in here?
We've added quite a few features to really make the website an experience, really interactive, engaging. For example, feedback forms. What do you think about the episodes? Do you have ideas? Is there something we're missing in this conversation? Leave us a voicemail. Give us some ideas. Are there things that are impacting kids and families that we should be talking about, right? And also, share it. Share it on your social media sites, Twitter, LinkedIn, via email. Send it to your friends. Let's get some engagement up. And then also, leave us a review. What do you think about it? I know we all want 5-star reviews, and so we're keenly interested in that. So just really increasing the engagement activity on the site. We're excited about it.
And also there's the voicemail component where people can leave a voicemail. You may hear your voice as part of the podcast moving forward. Cheryl, I want to talk about having been number 7 in the nation as a pediatric podcast. Previously, we did this almost all organically. Talk about that.
We did this all organically, and it's really amazing to me that people who tell me about the podcast love it. We have raving fans, which is amazing. And the growth to number 7 has been completely organic. But now we really want to make sure that we are letting other people know about the podcast, getting the word out, promoting it on social media, promoting it more with other leaders and other organizations, and cross-promoting. When we have members from different organizations, we want them to share, but we especially want our associates to be part of the podcast, because really those stories and their passion is the reason we're here. One of the challenges too is our associates, they're very humble. They don't always know that they really do have a great story. So we're encouraging you to share, or if you know of another associate with a great story, let us know and we'll make the contact.
And I think also we have a lot of associates that are really engaged with the community and different organizations. And as I mentioned earlier, it's critical that we bring other organizations' voices and storytelling into the mix as well. So I highly encourage our associates to bring in their relationships and the organizations they support as well.
And Champions for Children, which is the previous iteration of this podcast, 191 episodes, they're not going into the ether, are they, Cheryl?
No, that would be a great loss, because they really are a treasure and they're great content. They also talk about moments in time at Nemours, which I love, like the pandemic, which we'd probably like to forget, but there are some elements of it. We really came together. There were some really good things.
There's White Coats for Black Lives, which was during the pandemic
Huge.
period. That was, yes, that's a moment in time.
Mm-hmm. It really is our history, so we would not get rid of that. And you can listen to every single episode going all the way back to the first episode that you did with Dr. Moss, talking about introducing Champions for Children.
And again, where can we find the new Well Beyond Medicine podcast? Che.
Yes, it's nemourswellbeyond.org.
Drew.
Alternatively, if you're like me, I am very lazy, so I like to ask my devices like Alexa or Siri to play the Well Beyond Medicine podcast, and it will automatically play for you. So I think that's very important, especially if you're commuting. It's a great opportunity to stay connected to Nemours and our mission.
Anything I haven't talked about that you would like to share about this new podcast, about PAS, about strategy moving forward around the podcast, around marketing? Drew.
I think to sum it up, we are truly bringing this all together. When I came to the organization, there were so many amazing pieces and parts of the organization that truly had national impact. So amplifying the podcast in this way, and giving it this platform. And I will have to say, I just love the opening and closing theme music. I am tapping my foot and singing along with it. I'm ready to go, go, go. But again, we're also going to be bringing in kidshealth.org, which is another huge asset to the organization on the national stage. So there's so many pieces and parts, and this is just one element in terms of how we're going to be transforming as an organization into a true national leader.
Really excited about it.
Let's go.
Well beyond medicine.
Thanks for listening to the Well Beyond Medicine podcast with me, Carol Vassar, and our guests, Drew Landmeier, Cheryl Munn, and Che Parker. Looking for a previous podcast episode, be it Champions for Children or Well Beyond Medicine? Every episode is available on our brand new website, nemourswellbeyond.org. That's nemourswellbeyond.org. There you can also leave your feedback on the podcast in writing or by voicemail. Read our reviews, provide your own review, subscribe to the podcast, and sign up for our brand new podcast newsletter. Thanks to Che Parker, Cheryl Munn, Rachel Salas-Silverman, and Susan Masucci for their production support this week. Next week, since May is Mental Health Awareness Month, we'll air our interview recorded at PAS with Dr. Erica Sood and her colleagues from Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center and the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia about a new national effort of the American Board of Pediatrics to support the emotional health of pediatric patients with chronic conditions and their families. Until then, remember, together, we can change children's health for good, well beyond medicine.
Let's go.